All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of Cottage Grove Village Board meeting on Monday, April 1st. We are going to hold off for about 5 minutes or so because there was a corrupt link at the in the agenda. So make sure that folks that want to be on can get on. So just sit back and relax for till about 6:35, 6:36, and we'll see how many others join us. Looks like we got quite a few already. All right, a few others have joined. So with that, again, welcome everybody to the Village of Cottage Grove Village Board meeting on April 1st at 6:40 on my watch. We are holding this virtually and Zoom due to the election tomorrow. And just do a quick roll call, probably Lisa, since we're all on video. I do see we have a quorum, but
Sure. Ballwig,
Aye.
Murphy. Here. Peterson,
Present.
Stoa. Valencia, Williams,
aye.
and Wittig.
Wittig here.
All right. With that, we have a quorum. The agenda was properly posted, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So find a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, and we have an opportunity for public to speak. And again, if the public does wish to speak, we just ask that you raise your hand in Zoom so we can, or just call out. Share your name, your address, your municipality, and hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes in case we have a number of people who would like to speak. So with that, I will be quiet and see if anybody on the Zoom would like to chime in. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. Again, if you are from the public, just shout out if you do want to speak. I'll pause for yet another moment. All right. We'll next move to discuss and consider meeting minutes from our regular village board meeting held on March 20th. Any questions, comments, or edits in regards to meeting minutes as presented?
Make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Brittany, Heidi, I don't know. Lisa, you make the call. It was a tie in my ear. Any other discussion then? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anyone abstain? Motion carries. Next, then, we have unfinished business, and this is to discuss the consideration of a development agreement for Foundation Dance. I assume, Larry, you probably have an update.
Larry will, but just a suggestion on order here. If we want to take this item up after the plan commission items, just because we probably don't want to approve the development agreement until the site plan, everything is fully approved there.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Nobody has any issues with that, then we'll slide down to new business. This is, again, first item there is discuss and consider resolution 2024-06 for adopting the new legislative map within the ward splits. So Lisa, I will let you chime in on this.
Thanks, John. This resolution is due to the new legislative maps that were approved or by Governor Evers. And what it did for the village is it carved out a portion of what was the previous Ward 1 and kind of sliced a little bit out of the middle. And so we are creating a Ward 10, and it will have a new ballot style for the assembly district. So this is approval that we need so that Dane County can submit our map and resolution to the state so they can update it in their respective areas.
Thanks, Lisa. Any questions for Lisa regarding this?
I'll
Thanks,
make a
Lou.
motion.
Ooh, Go ahead, Rin. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2024-06 regarding adopting new legislative map with the wards.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second then. Any other discussion?
Lisa, just had a question. When I'm looking at the map, it's that when I look at the map in the packet, it's just that the Ward 10 it's north of Double T and west of N, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are there any residents that live in that ward today?
There's actually 7 that are registered voters in that ward.
Okay. Cool. That's all I needed. Thanks.
All right, any other discussion or questions? All right, having heard no more, all those in favor then?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Then under new business, then we have discuss and consider a temporary Class B retailer's license application for the Cottage Grove Lions for the ADPA Wisconsin event, which is the Parkinson's Run, on April 13th. And Lisa, I don't know if you have anything on this.
Yep, so this is the same, like you said, the Parkinson Run, they did this last year. They do need, because they're not considered a bona fide club, they need to have somebody apply for the license, which they have, the Lions Club has done that for them. They, Oakstone is providing the alcohol and the licensed operators to be able to serve the alcohol. So that's all within the regulations that they are allowed to do.
I'll make a motion to approve the temporary Class B Realtor's license application for the Cottage Grove Lions Club for the ADPA Wisconsin event on April 13th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Then we move right to reports from village boards, commissions, and committees, starting with Deer Grove EMS. I will take a pass at this, and then Brittany or Chief can jump in if I miss anything. We met last on March 21st and covered the usual items regarding bills and financials and budget expenses and write-offs, etc. Nothing out of the ordinary there to note. Then Chief gave his report, had a little discussion about some of the electronics on one of the ambulances, which we'll get an update from him next time. It's unfortunately, it's pretty significant piece of equipment. It actually runs the lights and sirens and everything, and we're having issues on that particular ambulance. So it may be a bit of an investment to update that. So, but we were hoping for the best on that. That was essentially the big item of discussion out of Chief's report. Runs and everything are moving right along, and all the other things that normally we talk about. Then we went through, just gave an update of the intergovernmental agreement. It had been signed at that point, I think, by 2 of the 3 municipalities, both the village and the town, and just needed the village of Deerfield to sign that. And I suspect by now it's been done. Then Chief touched on just to put a thumbnail in it, maybe in the future, approximately 5 years or so, there may be an additional need for space for a second ambulance in Cottage Grove. The ambulance wouldn't necessarily need to be run 24/7 like the current one is in Cottage Grove or Deerfield, but maybe, daytime hours or something like that, just based on what he's looking at, run rates and everything. So just something for us to kind of talk about when we get to the capital plan later this summer. Then we talked about a standard operating manual, employee grievance, some updates there from the lawyer associated with the Deer Grove EMS. So approved that. Had a closed session on the Cambridge EMS district, nothing out of that. And that was kind of it wrapping out of there. Brittany or Chief, anything else to add?
Sounds good to me.
Same here. Thank you for the excellent update.
All right. Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Brittany. Any questions from
I
anyone?
should mention it was my last EMS commission meeting, so we will need another village trustee.
Yes, Brittany, you will be missed. So yes, after the election, we'll be able to kind of figure that out. All right, next then we have the Law Enforcement Committee, and Chris can jump in as well here, but I'll take a first pass at this fairly short meeting. Not a lot worthy to note there. Again, just the normal items went through. A quick update from Chief on the accreditation. The accreditation team was on site for 3 days and had just left back when we had this meeting on the 26th of March. Nothing of note there, but again, we have to wait until they come back and hopefully accredit us again for another 3 years. Chief then walked us through the reports and everything that are generated. Nothing again trend-wise of concern there, and we wrap this all up in less than 20 minutes or so. So, Chris, anything to add, or Chief?
Sounds good.
All good.
All right, thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chris. All right, any questions from board members? Next, then we have the Plan Commission, and we have 3 items there to discuss and consider, as well as the item 6 from earlier. So with that, I'll walk through this quick, and then we'll get to the developer and staff on the items that are up for here. So we met on the 27th, a little different day for us, but again, there was enough to work on. The commission got together then along with some developers, went through foundation dance site approval. The prior meeting on the site was tabled. There was a number of things that were still outstanding. There was also very good feedback from residents in the area, and the developer and the architect as well as Foundation Dance took in those consideration and made some adjustments to that. The commission recommended that the board approve this. Next, then we held a public hearing in regards to a general development plan. This was to put in 166 unit townhouse development on the corner of northeast corner of County BB and Bus Road. The applicant was Sierra Devco or Heyday. Again, there was a lot of good feedback from the public, and developer was taking a number of those things back to look at for the next step in their process to make some adjustments based on that good feedback. Close that, and then again, the commission considered the general development agreement, development plan, and recommended again the board approve that. And then there was a certified survey map for that same development that again the commission recommended the board approve. So with that, I would wondering if anybody from Foundation Dance is on to kind of walk through the site.
Good evening, Mr. Williams. This is Scott Fruhl, the contractor for the project.
Hey, Scott.
I'm here for questions that you might have, but again, conceptually, we're proposing to build a 5,600 square foot single story wood frame dance academy at 501 Limerick. And as you indicated, when we came the first time, we had the opportunity to talk to some of the neighbors. And as a result of it, we changed the orientation of one of the driveways to match up with the roadway across the road, and also to move the driveway further away from Cottage Grove Road. But beyond that, I think most of the neighbors, the only other question that anyone had any concerns about was regarding the landscaping. And we are going to be submitting a final landscape plan that will change some of the deciduous trees into evergreens to, again, kind of reduce some of the light that may come out of the parking lot for autos as they come to a couple of neighbors across the street. But beyond that, I'm here for any other questions you might have.
All right. Thanks, Scott. I think we'll turn this over to staff because they may address some of the questions that maybe the board members may have. So Aaron, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, John. Scott and his team did a good job, as he said, kind of addressing some of the comments from the last meeting and working with some of the suggestions that Strand had and that I had. So we don't really have too many concerns with the current plan. We recommend approval with conditions. The first condition I had was about relocating some of the shrubs on the west side of the parking lot to the south side. I think that's at kind of a minimum, but as Scott indicated, I think they're going above and beyond even that, and looking at some different types of landscaping that'll even go beyond this suggestion to deal with some of the light that could affect the neighbors to the south. Second one, just a reminder that they'll need sign permits before installing any signage. We'd want them to verify that the parking lot accommodates the turn radii for fire equipment. We'd like a Knox box for after hours emergency access. There's a sidewalk that runs along the front of the building. We'd like either a curb or wheel stops there so the front ends of vehicles aren't extending into that sidewalk. And then we'll just want to see a photometric plan and lighting details to make sure they're meeting the ordinances in that regard. And then I see Josh on here if you want to go through your comments.
Aaron. Like Aaron said, the developer and developer's engineers been working with us on some comments. They actually sent revised drawings back last week. I haven't fully reviewed them yet, but they've addressed a lot of our comments that you would just see in our site plan letter. Just a few things to point out with the site is there is a 36-inch storm sewer that runs on the south side of the site. There's an easement that they now are showing there. Part of their parking lot goes over that easement, kind of over the storm sewer at that location. We've made them aware that, they can put that into that easement, but if there's ever maintenance or repairs needed in the easement for public infrastructure, the cost of that lot after potentially digging it up would be on them, and they acknowledged that. There's also some cover issues on storm sewer that they've addressed. Regarding the fire turning access that Aaron mentioned in their response back here this late last week, they mentioned that they aren't going to have trucks traversing the site. They are going to have access from the street. Apparently they're close enough, and I think that's just something, Aaron, you and I have to discuss with the fire department to make sure that comfort level is okay in reaching that site from the street. It is a smaller site, so maybe those clearances and distances are fine. So something to look into a little further. A couple other things is, yes, we're waiting on the lighting plan, which they did send us. We will review that. Something important to note also on the stormwater side is this site does have stormwater management already adjacent to it. There's an existing pond that's just to the west of it that handles the volume control. It's the total suspended solids removals that are needed on the site. So all you'll see in the site is some small bio basins for infiltration requirements that they have to deal with on site. should point out that Dane County now does erosion control and stormwater review also for the village, so they have to review and may have a couple conditions for them also. But other than that, those were the comments that we had.
All right. Thanks, Josh, and thanks, Aaron. And I think just Scott didn't get a chance to mention this, but the timeline, if this were to be approved, is to start fairly soon and hopefully have it completed around Labor Day or so, if I recall correctly, from Plan Commission. Scott, am I speaking correctly?
Yes, sir, you are. We're hoping with approval this evening to proceed through the rest of the documents that are needed this week and to begin moving dirt next week.
All right. Thank you, Scott. So with that, any questions, comments from board members?
Josh or Aaron, did we ever get an answer on the dumpster pad? I would assume it's not necessary, but I'm just curious if this was ever to not be a dance studio and someone else was using it, would it, I guess, what's the protocol there?
The response back to the dumpster, at least on our side, Aaron, was that they expected just to have small, like residential refuge pickup currently, David. So I don't know regarding, Aaron, the future use or what might be needed.
If either this entity or any future one decides they need dumpsters in the future, then they would also have to put in same screening that anyone else had that would match the buildings.
Okay. That's all I had, thanks.
Other questions from board members, comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the foundation dance site plan, approximately 600 square foot dance studio on parcel 0711-081-6148-1 with staff
staff.
conditions.
Thank you.
Sorry, just out of breath.
I understand. Not really, I don't understand, but I can understand.
Second.
Thank you, David. And walk into that one, don't go there. Any other discussion on this? I'll just make another real quick comment. Foundation Dance is a current business within the Market Street across the road. So Nicole Patton is expanding her her business, so that's always nice to see as well. So any other discussion then? All right, having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you so much, folks.
And then with that, since we're still on that, we can switch real quick to the developer agreement regarding Foundation Dance, since we're still on that subject. Larry, anything to comment there?
Yeah, the main points that, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So the main points that that I would bring up were in the memo that's in the packet. It's a pretty typical agreement. The positives are it's a pay-go, so there's no money up front. The payment is 70% of the increment during the life of that municipal revenue obligation. So the village retains 30% for other tax TID related project costs. The assessed value guarantee is 2.25 million. The guarantee does kick in as of the 1st of next year, so the project will be done this year. It's always nice to get those things going for purposes of that increment. There's some other things in the memo, but that's the gist of it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Larry regards to the agreement?
Make a motion to approve the developer agreement for Foundations Dance as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries.
And John, on that one, I would just say that there may be a couple of little minor tweaks in the language along the way, but we'll connect with you on signing here in the next couple of days, because I know they want to get the deal closed for the land here still this week.
Okay. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you again, people. We really appreciate your help and your support and all the staff input as a part of this.
All right. Thanks, Scott. All right, then we'll move to the other portion of the Plan Commission meeting and the two discuss and consider items related here. Again, for the development on of a townhouse development on BB and Bus Road on the northeast corner, and this was CR Devco or Heyday looking for the general development plan for this particular site and development. So with that, I believe I saw the developer online. You guys want to jump on here anytime?
Oh,
you
you
want
Yeah.
All right, you mute?
Yep.
All right, we're good.
Everyone's hearing?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic, Jerry. You want to share the?
Yeah.
My name is Ryan Swingruber. I live at 987 Bosworth Hills Road in Barrington, Illinois. I am one of three partners that make up CR Devco, doing business as Heyday. We currently have one development that's in lease up, almost completed with construction in Sun Prairie, about 20 minutes north of the village. And that project is called Heyday Sun Prairie, and it's 170 rental homes, single-story ranch sites. So there should be some commonality here on this presentation, but I'll speak specifically to this deal. So we are proposing, as John said, 168 two-story single-family attached rental townhomes. Now, in full transparency, during our presentation to Plan Commission, I think we're going to back that number down to 150. The reason being is when we take you to the presentation, part of our value proposition on this rental product is everything comes with a two-car direct access garage and a 22-foot driveway apron. So you're essentially can park 4 cars per unit. And in the 168 proposal, there would be approximately 14 units that wouldn't be afforded that, I'll call it amenity, peer amenity. And we think that's a critical value proposition. So the first slide is showing high level of where the property exists off of northeast corner of Highway BB, Cottage Road, and Bus Road. It's approximately 16 acres, I think 15.8 to be exact, adjacent to 2 schools. Is one of the reasons we were highly attracted to this parcel. And so I'm going to speak a little bit to our product type and who we're looking to target. And so our product is a substitution for home ownership. So we're looking at targeting 2 demographics, the younger demographic of millennials and Gen Z who are in family formation or considering family formation, and they're saving for a home, and they want to live in the village of Cottage Grove and access these schools, and they can't afford to buy a house right now. So what does that mean for our product? It means it's a high concentration of 2 and 3 bedroom, 2-story, single-family attached townhome rentals. And once I said previously, 2-car direct access garage for the weather, the elements, safety, as well as a 22-foot driveway apron to allow for 2 additional cars. All the units will have direct access not only into the garage, but into your unit. You'll have a front door with a smart lock. So there's no sharing of common hallways, stairwells, elevators that you see in traditional multifamily. Every home will have a dedicated trash and recycling receptacle because you will have your own garage. Like I said before, the unit has higher concentration of 2 and 3 bedroom units primarily. In this particular site plan, when I spoke to the 164 here, I misspoke at 168, my apologies, but the orange units or the stacked units, those are the ones I believe we're going to convert to be either 1 or 2 bedroom townhome units. That way, every unit in this community would have 4-to-1 parking out. That's absent of the guest parking. And so what we've tried to do here is create a community, like I said, of a substitution for home ownership.
All the units will have 9-foot ceilings, high-end finishes such as granite countertops, smart locks, and thermostats, high-end plumbing finishes. We offer 1 gig of internet speed in every unit. We think that's critical for more people working from home today. We like the potential for connectivity to the 2 adjacent schools. And so during our public meeting and also Plan Commission, the concerns that we heard from the public were first and foremost traffic. We have offered to do a traffic study. Peak traffic times, as a lot of us know, are morning commutes to work and then coming home from work. The nice thing about the potential people living here at our property, we hope they're gravitating to be close to the schools. So we're going to look to create pedestrian connectivity to the 2 schools, which will reduce, vehicular travel to and from the schools for the kids. Another comment the public brought up was crime. And I wanted to stress that, number one, we have a third-party property management firm named DMG. They're based out of Chicago, but they do have a portfolio in Milwaukee and also in Sun Prairie that they manage. The property will be staffed with a property manager, an assistant property manager, and a lead maintenance tech. And there might be a part-time tech to help that maintenance personnel. So 3 full-time people can serve in this property and maintain it. Back to the comment on crime or tenant demographic. All of our tenants are required to meet a minimum credit score. They have a background check, and also they have to have no criminal history. So those 3 things are critical because it dictates and meets minimum requirements for our tenants to prove that they can afford the rent and they're there of a certain quality. I spoke to the property management firm, who is DMG, who is currently managing our Heyday Sun Prairie project. The website's heydaysp.com. I encourage you to look at that because there are photos of the interiors of the unit. And it speaks to the quality of the product that we're building, which I think is very high end. Local commitment, we're working with Veerbecker as our civil engineer. RG Houston is the site contractor that we work with on Heyday Sun Prairie that we will look to contract here to do this project. And we're also working with Horizon Design Build Manage out of East Madison on the border of Sun Prairie. They're our general contractor at Sun Prairie, and they would be our general contractor here as well. I spoke to a little bit of the concern about pedestrian connectivity. I only bring that up because this site plan does not show it internal to the schools to the north. Currently, we'd be proposing to build a 10-foot wide multi-use asphalt path that would traverse north and south along Bus and east and west along Cottage Grove. We heard from the residents and the public that it would be nice that if residents from Shady Grove could access our neighborhood and then walk through our community or a portion of it and not have to traverse, Bus Road or Cottage Grove Road as much to get to the school, which are, higher traffic count. That comes to the next topic. We heard that we'd like to see a pedestrian walk from Shady Grove into our community, crossing Bus Road, and that would require buttons and some modernization of that crosswalk. We're open to helping figure out how to deliver that as well. The last comment was on Fundamental Way. I know there's some concerns that it's a right in, right out that could be adverse to the existing business to our east, as well as our commercial portion on the front and our residents leaving the community. We have reached out to the county to look to have a 4-way turn there as opposed to a right in, right out. So we are not opposed to that. We were kind of dictated in this direction. So full disclosure, we've reached out to the county and hope to get their support on modifying that potential intersection. And then the last comment, and during the Plan Commission meeting, was Fundamental Way. Right now, that ends into a roundabout, and that would be a public portion that would be dedicated. The Plan Commission, as well as some of the comments from the public, felt it was better if Fundamental Way carried and traveled all the way up to the entrance of our community, where my partner is showing the mouse hand. And it wouldn't be a roundabout anymore. It would just be a right-of-way, urbanized public road by the village's standards with sidewalks on both sides, curb and gutter. And then it would end at that point into our community and then have an access point for the future library when that comes online. In the last meetings, we're not opposed to that. We are in the process of trying to demonstrate that, as well as some other things like pedestrian connectivity through our community to the north to the schools. And so that was very high level, and we can answer any questions, but we appreciate all the public involvement today. We've been at this for quite some time. I think we've taken a step back and really digested a lot of the comments over the last 12 months and determined what's the best unit mix, the product type, parking, and pedestrian connectivity, and then also a fundamental way that will make this highly successful and a great addition to the village. So my partner's going through some of the renderings, and I'll just quickly say that just like Heyday Sun Prairie, if you look at the actual photos, we look to do a modern craftsman design. We don't want anything to stand out and deviate too much from the architectural facades and homes in the neighborhoods surrounding us. So we don't look to go too modern. We're more traditional in colors and schemes. So we look to employ board and batten, horizontal siding, white windows, black windows, and some other designs that we're evaluating. The pitches of the roof are 5/12. So more of a modern craftsman, traditional look that we think fits nicely into the village and the surrounding community. And lastly, the shot of a two-part direct access garage that once again will be provided for every unit, whether it's a 1, 2, or 3-bedroom town. But the high concentration will be on 2s and 3s. So that's our vision for Heyday Cottage Grove. And at this time, I'll turn it over for any questions. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. I think we'll step over to staff because they may address some of the questions that the board members may have, and then certainly you're still on the line. So if there are questions thrown your way, then they'll come your way. So, Aaron, you want to continue the discussion?
Yeah, thanks, John. So there's 2 items you'd be considering tonight. First is the general development plan, and then the certified survey map. So starting with the GDP, we'd have a series of conditions we'd recommend with the approval. The first one, this is a planned unit development. They're doing that because there are a few variations from the most comparable zoning district that they would need to make the project work. The first one relating to the landscape surface ratio is a little bit lower than you would typically have in the MR12 zoning district, which would be kind of the most comparable base zoning district. So we're just acknowledging that that deviation would be occurring. The second one relates to the parking in those stacked 1-bedroom units, but it sounds like those may be going away when we get to the PIP level, so that may no longer be an issue when we get to that next step. The second condition, certainly the general landscaping they're showing in the site plan certainly seems to be adequate, but with the PIP, we will need a more detailed plan that shows the species and the numbers and everything to verify we're meeting ordinances there. We'll want the photometric and exterior lighting details, and that would include street lamps on the public portion of Fundamental Way. We'd recommend some kind of a small tot lot type playground as an amenity. There are the playgrounds in the schools that I think would be suitable for older kids, but I think this is a neighborhood that could attract a lot of young families with very young kids, and I think having something right there that parents can take their kids to very easily would be a benefit. We'd like to see sidewalks on both sides of private street F, that's the street coming off the cul-de-sac, just to facilitate pedestrian connections to the future library site. So the 6th condition relates to, again, the use of that private street to access the northern parking lot library. If we leave the concept kind of as it is with the street stopping at the southern parking lot of the library, then we'd be looking for a access easement that would ensure the village can use that private street for access to the library for staff parking and the drop-off. Would give the village the right to connect the library driveway to that street, to connect sidewalks and to install any signage that would be necessary. Now, Ryan mentioned they're also open to extending the street further, and I think that's the preference of Cindy and the library group, so that's something we can look at too. And if we do that, then this condition kind of goes away. The only thing I would add, if we do extend Fundamental Way farther, we just need to make sure there's still a way to turn around a snowplow. There's ways we can make that work. The 7th one, we'll want to see a diagram that verifies the private road network can accommodate the turn radii of our largest fire department vehicles. We'll want them to work with the fire department to look at hydrant locations. We'll want them to work with the village, the fire department, and EMS on an addressing system. So that would include not just the numbering, but also naming the private streets. And then making sure the actual physical numbers on the buildings meet our ordinance. And then we'd want private street signs to be similar size and legibility to any public street, just to make sure people can find where they're going in an emergency situation. 10th condition is a reminder that there will be park fees and fees in lieu of public land dedication. There's no dedicated parkland in the project, which does comply with the park and open space plan. We weren't showing parkland in this space because it was basically one development. 12th one, whatever the public portion of Fundamental Way ends up being, we'll want street trees on that portion. And we'll want them to work with the village forester on the species and the exact locations of those. 13, so the adjacent existing commercial building, there's a chiropractor and I believe a dentist in there. Currently their driveway goes down to BB. That would get reconfigured to have their access off of Fundamental when that's built. We'll just want the applicant to kind of pay for reconstructing that access and then working with those businesses and landowners to make sure that those businesses are always accessible, throughout the construction process. We'll want to verify that this has been annexed into the MMSD service area, and if not, just making it clear the applicant would be responsible for reimbursing the village for those fees. The site plan showed monument signs at a few locations, just a reminder that those who need sign permits. At the northern end of the site across Private Street A, there's a sidewalk that runs across and it looked like it didn't quite align from one side to the other. Just kind of a minor thing to double check. Just a reminder that the future commercial building, the new building that would be west of Fundamental, would require a separate site plan approval, and there's a specific building plan that comes forward. And then as Ryan mentioned, they are working with the village and Dane County on the optimal intersection with BB. I think everyone would prefer a full intersection there if Dane County agrees to that. And then as far as the CSM, generally okay with it. This would involve a vacation of the northern portion of Fundamental Way, and that will require a formal vacation request that they'll need to submit and get board approval for. And we did provide a memo to them on that a while back that they can follow to make that request. So I think it's okay to approve the CSM, but just make it conditioned on getting that vacation finalized. I see hands up. If there's a question specifically for me, we can take those before we go on to Josh. Maybe start with Chris, you're furthest left on my screen.
I just have a process clarification. So this is just the general, if we approve this tonight, we're just approving the general idea of a townhome thing in this area, right? I mean, we approve this tonight, it's not necessarily, I had some people reach out with some concerns about like the cul-de-sac and things. So if we approve this tonight, it doesn't necessarily mean what's been presented is what we're going to see as a final product, correct?
No, I mean, certainly there can be some variations, and especially with things like Fundamental Way, since that's addressed in the conditions anyway, that could change. So
Okay,
some
so
tweaks are expected from one step to the
right.
next.
Okay, so we approve this tonight, and it doesn't necessarily mean we're getting a cul-de-sac or the right in, right out is definite.
Now, if they come back with a PIP that has a high-rise building and all kinds of weird
Yeah.
stuff, then that's a whole different project. But I don't expect that to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, Vince.
Yes, thanks, Chris. That was one of the questions I was going to ask, but two others. One is the ratio of units per acre. So I looked at your Sun Prairie location. I think you said 170 units, and I think it was 100 or 41 acres. And that I think equates to roughly 4 units per acre. Here we're looking, and here's part of the question I had. You said you'll probably go down to 150. And so at that rate, you're at about 10 units per acre. And I didn't see much, if any, green space. And I think Aaron mentioned this, but I don't know if I completely understood what he was saying about the green space. is that you're attracting families and there's no green space. It's parking lots and buildings. And I guess, is there are any of those provisions, Aaron, around the green space?
What I would say that's specific to that is providing the tot lot as an amenity. There is some green space that Ryan and Josh can address how that works, but running kind of north-south and east-west through the development is kind of a garden type amenity. The density of the projects is actually lower than what could be allowed under the comprehensive plan. Yeah, guys, I don't know if you want to kind of address how the green space works in there.
Yeah, I'll share my screen again. Let me bring this one up.
Yeah, I mean, we're proposing two what we call garden courtyards that are common areas that can be used by the residents that will look to.
You got the wrong screen up here.
If you're putting a softball diamond in, I'm approving it right now.
There we go.
Yeah, and Aaron spoke to the toddler playground. You know, we're not showing it on this because, like anything that is conceptual, is early. We want to get feedback from everybody, and there's only so much money you want to spend with the architect and that details before we can get high-level commentary. So, to the east side of the property, there's a large green space it's next to the future library. That's the area we're designating for the toddler playground. We put some probably parking in there. We think that makes sense because of the future use down the road with the library being to the east and keeping that facility, whatever that looks like, away from the high traffic areas to the west and the south. And then my partner highlighted, and once again, this is a conceptual plan, so it lacks a lot of detail that we've come at with the PIP, but those number twos, those are what we're calling garden courtyards, and we look to put seating, maybe some fire pits or barbecue grills. We program those, but those would be common areas for people to interact in and socialize, kick the soccer ball around. Now, while I know it's not similar to our Sun Prairie project, that was different because that's 5 units per acre, and we dedicated a significant park there to the city to get fees waived and some other benefits. But that's a ranch-style product that we've developed for larger parcels. Unfortunately, this is 15.8 units or 15.8 acres. And in order for us to do some of the things that we commit to in terms of offsite improvements and bringing utilities here and extending them, we just need a little bit more density. As Aaron alluded to, the comp plan allows for 15 units an acre. We're just short of 10. We're at like 9.89. And we're not planning on doing the 168, as I said. When we come back, you'll see the plan is for 150. So that's some of the logic by some of the decisions we made. And while I wish we could offer more green space, this is the most efficient way to lay out the product and help make it underwrite from a construction standpoint while still offering some common area green spaces that we think will be valuable, as well as a community playground.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
David, you're being patient there.
Yep, sure. Ryan, talk to me about BB and fundamental way, that right in and right out. What feedback, if anything, have you gotten from the county so far?
Oh, we have not received anything from the county yet. We know the public, and I think the village and ourselves feel strongly that that is not the best design. It'll be problematic for people wanting to make U-turns, or we don't want people cutting through our community if they enter and use the existing business to the east or the commercial building, which is we're proposing on our southeast corner. So that is not what we desired for that improvement.
David, Hayday reached out to Dane County. Dane County reached out directly to us, and we have a meeting scheduled with them this week. We also have a meeting scheduled with the school district to just, get their feedback on some of the connectivity discussion that's been out there. So we'll meet with Dane County first, and then look to circle in the Hayday and get all of us together. But they wanted to talk with us first.
Yeah, that's a good point. I appreciate that, Matt, because also creating connectivity through our development to the schools in the north is going to require some coordination with the school, because whether we put a ramp or steps or a combination of both, it takes one of our sidewalks and up into that community. So residents of City Grove or our residents don't have to go out on the bus road and can feel safer just connecting. There's coordination that is required with the school. So we'll sit tight and wait to hear from the village on next steps with the county.
Okay. And then Aaron,
David.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just to like David, just to kind of bring full circle that access right in, right out. The reason you see it to the south at Shady Grove, and it was required by the county to the south, is because Shady Grove has full access at BB, right? They have the full signal access, public roads that circulate that whole site. Where in this case, we only have the one access to that smaller commercial area and few other lots there. So it's a different conversation with the county that needs to be had at this location.
And also the village could consider, we'll certainly do everything we can to work with the county on this, but we also could look into, since almost this entire stretch from Bus Road heading east to Damascus is on both sides of the road is almost all village. We could look into potentially discussing a jurisdictional transfer with the county, and we just take over, then we can take that over and we can lower the speed limit as appropriate and things like that. Because I think that's part of the consideration too, is it's 40 miles per hour, right near that entrance.
Right. I think I will tell you, I've had residents reach out to me about that right in, right out at Shady Grove, Josh, and people are not happy about it. It's just generally that stretch of road. And so I think Matt is telegraphing here, that jurisdictional transfer would be very, very helpful, because I think lots of residents would be happy about that. So
the other thing, David, one more comment is that the timing too could be part of at the next step to discuss, depending how the conversations go, from the standpoint that the right in, right out is certainly really important once the driveway is shifted for the existing businesses, and it'll be important for the future library and for the future commercial site. But to get Heyday going in the short term for their community, the right in, right out works for that. It's just the other uses. So if it's a timing thing and it's things to work out with the county, I think there's ways to work around that, where it doesn't have to be done, day one of this project.
Okay. Last question, Aaron, you had mentioned the cul-de-sac was for it's preferred for snowplows, is that correct? For a turnaround?
Yeah, Public Works is looking for a way to make sure we can, because they would only be plowing the public portion, they would need a way to get back out again. Whether that's a roundabout or there's a short path through the neighborhood that gets back to that is something we can investigate, but that is a maneuver that would have to be able to happen one way or another.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up there. And some of these diagrams, I guess it's just feedback for the Heyday team. Some of these diagrams are a little confusing, because sometimes I've seen them with what I think is a sidewalk around the cul-de-sac and then private street F. Just for it's a stupid question, but the idea here is again, we've talked about several options, and when you come back for the PIP, we might be a little bit more crisp on it. But the idea is that when I look at these diagrams, there's a cul-de-sac, but then that private street would be a direct access into that. There's no curb, there's nothing, no impediment, right? If I was just driving on it, it would look like consistent blacktop to me, right? Or am I?
You're saying that, here, let me share my screen again, and I can bring this up, make sure I understand exactly what you're asking, but you're saying the transition between what is currently drawn as fundamental way, the public street, and then the private street here?
Yeah, so I've had several folks reach out to me, and I think I even got myself confused here. See that little white line that goes over Private Street F? What is that? Is that curb? Is that a block? Like the one that goes over top of Private Street F? I guess
It's the one that circles, the sidewalk. You're showing there a sidewalk
that has created more confusion even in my own house than I care to admit publicly, but that confuses me.
Yeah, that's a poor way of drawing the sidewalk going over it, candidly, because it's showing it around both sides. I mean, like I said during our presentation, it sounds like, but we'll have to work more with the village, that eliminating that roundabout and taking the public road further up, closer to our development, is something that we've heard from the library folks and the public would be better, because now you have a public right of way that has more pedestrian vehicular access further to the north, closer, more options for the library. And there'll be a clear delineation of what's public and private, because once you leave Fundamental Way, you turn onto a private road and there'll be a sign into Heyday Cottage Grove. Right now, as it exists, I see how there could be some confusion. You could come on Fundamental, and even though you're in that roundabout, you could still continue on the private road without knowing you're entering into our community.
Okay, that makes more sense. So I guess, Ryan, just for clarification, right? It sounds like you're leaning towards, what the library board and Cindy have advocated for is that rather than a cul-de-sac, when you come back for the PIP, it'll more than likely be Fundamental Way will go up to about where that cursor is right now.
Where he's drawing a line, we would have it, and then we would leave it for access to the library to go to the right. And it would be a delineation. The public road would end, and then you would have a sign entering our community. But I think that's solved for a lot of the concerns that the library folks and the public had. It'll be a lot cleaner design in terms of responsibility, maintenance, long-term, and what's public and what's private.
Yep, that if we could have that, you have my approval. Thank you.
Thanks.
So if there's no other questions, maybe Josh can touch on some of his comments and conditions.
Yeah, I can kind of give you a little bit of a summary. Chris mentioned it earlier. It's a PIP. I'm sorry, it's the GDP, and the engineering side and the detail side is really going to come during more of the PIP side of it. Aaron had a lot of the comments, similar comments to what we had, just a few of the things that maybe were not touched upon that are a little bit more specific and public works wise. Was utilities. In our conditions, you'll see that we want to see sewer and water extended to the far west and to the north to serve future properties. Right now, they're showing 8-inch. There's 12-inch to the east of both sewer and water, and getting those sides to continue through both north and west will be important as part of this development. So making sure the utilities are extended is something we're going to work with the developer on. And sizing wise, we also have some stuff in there about stormwater. You've seen a variety of stormwater ponds around the site. Again, we need 4 full stormwater reports and modeling, which will come during the PIP. They've dedicated the space throughout, which is good to see. But we'll need more detail for us in the county to review during the PIP side of it. There's also a 100-year kind of storm or larger storm event that goes from kind of future library site, Friends of the Library site down and through their site, and then crosses Cottage Grove Road at a 78-inch culvert there, and then goes through Shady Grove. We're going to want to see a little bit more detail in the modeling of that, making sure that the storm sewer kind of goes under the path, and that on F, the storm sewer is sized correctly so that we aren't flooding those roadways or the public fundamental way as it gets extended up, as we were discussing now. Other than that, most of our comments are very similar to what's already been discussed. I don't really think I need to go into great more detail as part of this. We talked about the right in, right out. We talked about some of the traffic and trip generation that they're going to provide more detail on, which is good. And another big one that they also discussed and was recommended was that pedestrian crossing. You'll have a multi-use path that's now on this site. You have a multi-use path that's on the Shady Grove site, and just making that connection at the current signal is going to be important as part of this project, just to make sure that there's connectivity throughout the village. I don't know if there's anything specific that maybe you've read in my comments or other engineering questions you might have for me.
All right. Thanks, Josh, and thanks, Aaron. With that, then, again, I'll turn it over to board members for additional questions or comments.
Matt, I know we had held that, and I can't remember which TID it was, but we held that TID open for an extra year for affordable housing funds. Is that something that we've discussed in this project?
A while back we discussed that, but we think we have a different development that's better suited for those funds. So
Okay.
There wouldn't be anything proposed for this project given the rents.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions from board members?
This is Heidi. I just wanted to add on to my kind of comment about seeing the renderings for the frontage on especially Cottage Grove Road. It would be, just to add on to that, I think it would be great to see some finishes that are kind of timeless, classic, particularly on those frontage, perhaps with stone or something along those lines, since it is such an important corridor coming into town. I think just adding that extra bit on the elevations would add a lot as you come into Cottage Grove. So look forward to seeing the further details coming up.
All right. Thanks, Heidi. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, this is a discuss and consider.
I'll make a motion to approve the request from CR Devco for approval of a general development plan for a 166 unit townhouse development to be located on parcel 0711-082-8670-1 located at the northeast corner of County Highway BB and Bus Road with staff suggestions and changes as presented.
And I'll second.
So at the risk of being too picky, I might scratch the number of units since that might be changing.
And
Sure.
then,
Yep.
Oh, go ahead. I don't know if it can be said in the motion to just like really stress, because I feel like we've beaten a dead horse about fundamental way. Because I've had several phone calls on that today. So just making sure that that gets like heard.
So, okay, I'll modify the motion with we'll take out the number, Lisa. We'll add in staff recommendations as well as recommended changes to fundamental way.
And that sounds good to me.
All right, so we have a motion and second then. Any other discussion? All right, having heard none then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, then also with this was a certified survey map. Again, to split the two parcels, creating the one outlot of two lots, etc. Aaron, anything here you want to make a comment on?
Yeah, again, just this wouldn't take effect until we receive and approve the formal request to vacate the right of way, because that's part of what they're showing in the CSO. I guess to clarify when that happens, the current 66-foot right of way would get split in half. The western half would go to Heyday, the eastern half would get added to the library parcel. But if we extend fundamental way up, I guess there would be less of that getting split up.
And this would require the Friends of the Library, an agreement between the Friends of the Library and Heyday.
Would defer to Larry on that.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. It doesn't require agreement, but I think that the approach that everyone's committed to is to working together to figure out what would work for all. And as Matt said, there's going to be conversations with the school district about how far to the north there may ever be a desire for what kind of access, whether it be non-vehicular or vehicular. We'll know more, David, as we move forward. But I don't know that it would necessarily need an agreement. If there's what's in the staff conditions, though, is if there's access that is going to be off of what would end up being all or a portion of a private road, that access would be deeded to the library parcel. It's just now it's a matter of how much of it's going to be public and how much of it's going to be private.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the request from CR Devco for approval of a certified survey map to split parcel Number 0711-082-8670-1 into 2 lots and 1 outlot as presented.
And you want to add it has to be vacated too.
And yeah, and it has to be vacant too.
Is that what you need, Aaron?
Yeah, or just reference the conditions in the staff reports.
Okay.
Yes.
David covered that already as well.
You good, Lisa?
And I'll second that.
All right. All right, we have a motion and second then. Any other discussion? All right, having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, Ryan and Josh, thanks again for popping in tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And that was what we had for Planning Commission on last week. So with that, we'll move to Parks and Rec, Forestry. Heidi.
Yep, thank you. We met last week on Thursday, the 28th, and we actually had a pretty quick meeting for us. A couple members wanted me to make sure to reiterate that. So we talked about briefly the dog park design from University. Sean just went over the high level. The university students assigned couldn't attend that meeting, so we're going to hear more details on the dog park design coming up. We're still waiting for grass and things to move in, talk about costs and that we can build into our financial management plan in the future on what some of the improvements we might want to make based on the university landscape architect design for the dog park. And some more to come on that. We also heard from for an Eagle Scout project from Levi, who will come and present to the village board next meeting about his pollinator garden he'd like to build for his Eagle Scout project at Community Park. So more to come on that as well. Then there is a pickleball advisory group that meets with Sean to talk about the pickleball courts and use, rentals, programming, hours, and different things we can do with different age groups. So they kind of cover everything pickleball in Cottage Grove. And one of the things that they have requested is that we extend the park hours into the morning so people can play before work. Just at the Bakken Park pickleball courts. And Sean's talked to a couple neighbors next to the Bakken Park pickleball courts, and it would just be for those areas right next tennis and pickleball to extend the hours. So that is for us to consider tonight. Sean, did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
Nope, you got it. Thank you.
Saw some people out there using them over the weekend. So that sums up our meeting. So the one thing to consider then this evening would be the pickleball hours extended in the morning at Bakken Park.
We're tabling then the Levi's project until.
Yep.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Any consideration for extending the hours then for Bakken? Any motion?
I have a question. Is it just for like the summer or is it like a permanent change? Like is it during like essentially pickleball season?
It could be whichever you would like it to be. We're kind of advertising the pickleball season of May 1 through November 1. So we could just do it a blanket from May 1 until November 1, or we could make it a 12-month cycle. Obviously, there's nobody really down there when there's snow on the ground.
Right. I just didn't know if there was any additional issues.
So pickleball season starting earlier. Well, we'll see. Maybe it'll close again.
I mean,
days.
February we had 70-degree days, so let's be real. I'll make a motion to adjust the park hours at Bakken Park from 5:30 a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Maybe abstain? Motion carries. Anything else, Heidi?
No, are we all right to just have Levi on next time? Do we need a motion to table that, or? I'd be happy to make a motion to table the Eagle Scout project.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and second then to table the pollinator garden from Levi's Eagle project. So any other discussion there? Having heard none then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Then we move over to reports from village officers, starting with the village attorney. Larry, anything?
I don't have anything to add tonight.
All right, thank you, Larry. Then Cameron, we got a few items there to cover.
I got two really short items today. I saw an email late last week. We had our annual audit last week. Two things came up regarding newer funds of the village. So both of these are to formalize what happens to the residual funds of each of those funds at the end of the year, formally committing them for the intended purposes. So again, this is not asking for money for either one of these. This is just designating the funds as accounting standards require. So just asking for approval of both resolutions 2024-07 and 08.
Any questions for Cameron on this, on either of those?
Sorry. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2024-07 regarding tourism fund for the purpose of funding tourism activities and conservation development expenditures.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second then and a third. Any other discussion? Having heard none then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries.
I will make a motion to approve resolution 2024-08 regarding library fund for the purpose of funding library expenditures.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Then we move down to communication miscellaneous business, looking at the vouchers. First item up there. Any questions, comments in regards to the vouchers as presented?
Make a motion to pay the bills as written.
All right, thank you, David. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion second then. Any other discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor then?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Correspondence. I don't think I had anything for myself. I don't know if anybody else did. If everything else is circulated and posted. Upcoming community events. We touched on the Parkinson Run in a week or so earlier in the meeting. Anybody else have other items they want to cover as far as upcoming community events? All right. We're just on the cusp of stuff starting to get going. Then to future agenda items. Matt, anything you want to call out?
No, I'm guessing it'll be relatively light agenda. Actually the last meeting of this board as it is today. So
bigger agenda item, Matt. We'll have Ellers will be at the meeting discussing the parameter bond sale for the 2024 projects.
Cameron, that's big in your world.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding.
I figure a couple $1 million taken out, people would be interested. So he'll be there. And then future agenda items, Amanda will be at the May 20th board meeting to present her audit findings.
I stand corrected. Thanks, Cameron.
I have an agenda item that's a big deal in the pollinator world for No Mow May, as we've done in the past.
Didn't we make a motion
I
last
thought we
night?
made that permanent.
I thought we made it permanent.
I looked at the ordinances and it just said we're allowed to, but maybe we can look into that and prepare a resolution if needed. I can look at the minutes too to see what, I guess I didn't look at that part.
We better add April to that too, Heidi. The way
Yeah,
things are going.
grass is already growing.
Only this year. Next year we'll have a regular winter and it'll be a doozy. So just wait, guys. So if there's nothing else, then we'll move down and I'll make a motion that the village board will go in a closed session to establish terms regarding a contract for architectural and design services for a new police station. The village of Cottage Grove will enter a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, parentheses 1, parentheses E, deliberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you,
John,
Brittany.
can I jump in on that before you vote?
Yes, you can.
So I found out, much to my dismay, late this afternoon that our firm actually has a conflict with Enberg Anderson, which is the purpose of the discussion tonight. And so I'm going to have to sit this out and I'll be signing off. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, that we didn't figure that out until I had already reviewed the contract and sent my comments back to Enberg. Matt's received all that and he should be able to carry the discussion without me, but unfortunately I missed that one.
All right. Thanks, Larry. Appreciate the heads up. And the bowing out, of course, is appropriate. So with that, then, Lisa, roll call.
Bowwig,
Aye.
Murphy,
Aye.
Peterson,
Aye.
Stoa,
Yes.
Valencia, Williams,
Aye.